Hey, hello, my name is Darius Anucauskas and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com, and today is Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. We're midweek in this week, and yes, we already had some important economic data sets. Today we had the British CPIs that came out, the RBNZ interest rate decision as well. So, and of course, we're looking forward to other economic events, which I'll talk about in this session. So stick around. Hopefully you'll enjoy the session, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and good morning. My name is Darius Anucauskas, and I'm Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com, and today is midweek. Today's Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. You made it through the half of the first week. Look, we're going to talk markets, the usual stuff. We're going to talk what's happening about in the world right now. About all these things, and in the economic world, of course. Not to mention, we're picking up on the political side as well sometimes. Although we're trying to stay away from politics. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk markets. We're going to pick up on a few instruments. As always, if you wish, you can drop me a message here in the top in the live chat in case you would like me to cover a specific instrument. I always encourage interaction because I think that this is the best way. We're both learning, right? So. Because maybe you'll tell me something that I didn't know. That's also great. Look, before we go any further, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. Look, I'll do the usual good morning in the chat room here. Good morning. Let me just think good morning everyone. There we go. So hey, oh, why it's not coming through? For some reason it's giving me an error message once again. Second time should be lucky. Good morning everyone. Let's see if this one's gonna go through. There we go. It came through now. For some reason the first one is like the first one is not coming through. Anyway, you got the picture. Look, it's an interesting world we're living in right now, of course. We're going through some interesting moments in the market, so we'll look into all that. Look, also before we jump any further, a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. And also, next week, I wanted to invite you to my little live session. It's a closed session. You can register for that. You can join, and you'll get the link for that. So basically, it's going to be on Zoom. Basically, I'm going to talk about the MACD, the indicator, and we'll try to apply it in real life. So if you are a trader who uses different tools like indicators, one of them, let's say, is a MACD. We can, like I said, we'll look into that. We'll jump into that indicator. We have an hour to go through. So basically, one part will be educational. The other part will be trying to apply it in practice to see how it works. Now, so yeah, please do join. You'll find the link in the description of this webinar. So looking forward to seeing you there. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into the indices. Japanese Nikkei 225, there we go, dropping nicely, beautifully below one of the areas that I was talking about recently, and this is this one. Let me just put this on the chart here. There we go. So 43,000 kind of 500. I talked about this on Monday, and there we go. Boom, we dropped below this. I said that if we do fall and stay below that area, then yes, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards the downside. Look how well this is playing out. These arrows need to be adjusted. You know what I'm going to do? I really want to do here, I want to remove all the drawings and start fresh. But yes, so basically I'm going to bring this hurdle back again here to the table. Certainly we're still on an uptrend because we're trading above this upside line right here. Oh, need to start my engine. I think my morning is not. I don't have the smoothest. I don't have the smoothest kind of voice right now this morning. But anyway, hopefully it doesn't distract you too much. Anyway, sorry about this little pause. Look, 43,000 and a half. I was talking about this one, and there we go. We had a nice, beautiful drop below that. So what we're looking at now, or specifically what I'm looking at now, right now, is this little area. Now, why do I like this area, the 42,500 zone? So from 43,500 to 42,500. Why do I like this area? Because I'm aiming for this one first, and I want to see what's going to happen next with with this hurdle, because maybe we'll get a little rebound. And if we do get a little rebound, then my question is, how big of a rebound could we get? Are we not gonna, let me just bring in an arrow here back into the picture. So are we not gonna get something like this, where we're gonna rebound, push back up, but then we're gonna struggle with this little hurdle here, the 43.5 zone, and then we're gonna do this basically. So again, this is just an idea, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is something that I'm trying to apply from history. I've seen this happening before. So and in this case, if we are getting something like this, then we could get ourselves a somewhat of a nice little head and shoulders pattern. Again, let me just drop this on the chart here. Something basically among these lines. And again, don't get me wrong, this is just an idea. This is something to keep in mind. But hey, we're all trying to discuss, trying to examine, trying to find some sort of logic in this market. So for now, I'm going to get rid of this head and shoulders, but this is something for you to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ignore this whole head and shoulders idea if we start clearing the 43.5 zone, and then we also clear this. The highest point of this year, basically, and or actually it's the all-time high, if I'm going to say. Let me just try to find a chart here. This is what I was trying to do on Monday, where I was trying to find yeah, so this is something that, okay, it's not giving me for some reason this, but anyway, this is basically the all-time high, should be that. But why I'm not getting the bigger chart here? No, I don't want to use any other broker here. Futures, maybe let's jump into that one. So yeah, I'm not getting the old data here. Anyway, I'm trying to find. Before, I used to have on TradingView a good chart of provided by TradingView, actually, a good chart of Nikkei. For some reason, maybe they've changed the ticker or something like that. But anyway, look. Long story short, for now, from the very short-term perspective, I am examining this idea of a possible decline, further decline. However, for that, I need to see some clearance. And, well, one of the clearances could be this drop below the 42.5 territory. For now, I'm just aiming for that. Then I want to see what's going to happen next. Are we going to rebound or not? But then, yes, maybe a bit of a, if we do get a rebound, maybe something like this could be possible. Look, in general, yesterday the stock market did correct lower, kind of fueled by weakness in tech. Yes, there we go. Why is it like this? Why is my chart, or why are my charts like that? Everything is just kind of jumpy today, to be honest, and sorry about this, but yeah. Look, yesterday, yeah, like you can see that on your screen, basically, that for some reason it went blank here, it went dark. Look, for now, I think that there are like some issues in the tech sector, because again, I kind of attribute that to profit taking in a way, because look, we had good rallies in tech, and I think that maybe it's time for a little bit of profit taking. So maybe that's what we're seeing right now. China, let's jump into China. China is enjoying the moment. China is rallying, and there we go. Look at this. Look, I talked about this on Monday. I said to you that, look, if we do push and stay above the 14,178 zone right there, I'm going to continue targeting the upside. And yep, my next target is going to be the 14,000 kind of near 600 zone. And then we'll take it from there. Dow Jones Industrial Average looking good. So yesterday we went for another clearance of this key important area of resistance around the 45,077 zone. So we popped above it. We failed to stay above it, and yep, we're seeing the consequences. We're seeing that drift back down. So basically, as long as we stay below this hurdle here on my cash index, which is around the 45,077-ish zone. Again, that's approximately, I would actually round it up to 100. So 45,100, as long as we stay below that, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards the downside. And but again, this downside move could be classed as a temporary correction before another possible leg of buying, because we're still above this upside line, which is, I get it, it is a tentative one. It's taken from the lowest point of April. But nevertheless, I'm going to keep an eye on it for now. The S&P 500, beautiful decline, beautiful drop. By the way, yesterday the Dow was the kind of the least of the losers. You know, it managed to stay, well, I would say flat, but in positive territory still, 0.02% gain. The NASDAQ was the biggest loser, and as always, S&P somewhere in between there. Now look, so far so good. I talked about this on Monday as well. I warned everybody, look, I said that if we do fall below this little hurdle, this 6,435 zone, I'm leaning towards the downside. And at least for maybe a test of this 23.6 tick, and then maybe the test of the 38.2 on the Fibonacci retracement, which is drawn from the lowest point of August to the highest point of August. I mean, okay, I should say, of course, that current lowest point of August and current highest point of August, because we are not finished with August yet. But anyway, you got the picture. For now, look, I mean, I'm saying that I'm going to lean towards that kind of 38.2, and after that, I will see. If we clear it, okay, I'll go towards the 50. Basically, I'm going in these Fibonacci retracement increments because I find it a little bit easier, to be honest, this way, and I do like the small Fibonacci drawn this way. I mean, I can draw the bigger one, but I'm keeping that one for later. For now, I'm dealing with this. I'll deal with one problem at a time, and first I'm dealing with that I want to deal with that 38.2, and then we'll see. If we can clear that, we'll go for the 50. If we clear the 50, we can go towards the 61.8. And we'll take it from there. NASDAQ 100. Oh, by the way, in terms of the upside on this one, look, for me, very simple. I need to see this one pushing back above the 6,435 zone right there. And if we can get that nice clearance, amazing. I will start considering some moves to the upside. NASDAQ, of course, like I said, yesterday was the biggest loser because again, tech was the driving force. Look, we saw. Okay, let's check out our big tech. NVIDIA, boom. So basically, there are issues. There are issues in a way that you know, the U.S. government didn't want to allow NVIDIA to sell chips to China. Now we know that there's this, if I'm not mistaken, H20 chip or whatever is getting developed specifically for China, and yeah. Yeah, okay, what can I say? Now it seems like now it's okay, you know. But then there are like some potential tariffs on chips. Again, it's a mix a little bit. It's all over the place, and I think that a little bit of profit taking is happening. So that's absolutely fine. Look, AMD also was a big loser yesterday. Look at this. I talked about AMD before. I said, like, look, if we do break this upper side of the falling channel, we could go higher. We did go higher. We went for I just wanted to say a new all-time high, but no, it was the highest point of this year. And then we reversed back down, and yep, so far we are drifting lower. Are we still on an uptrend? Let's have a look on AMD. By the way, I don't like this. Why is this color like this? Oh boy. There we go. So we are still on an uptrend, and basically, yeah, it's the thing that we're currently seeing is a little bit of a correction before another possible leg of buying in a way. if we do apply just technical analysis. But certainly, as I keep on saying, if you are looking at stocks, then it's a little bit of a different game, and you need to look at the fundamentals as well, so a bit more than in other asset classes. So keep that in mind. Let's have a look at Microsoft, how it did. Continues to decline. Apple, not a major one, but Google, a nice little decline as well. So but I think that this company here, now that one is a big one here. So Palantir losing ground. So that's an interesting moment here. Now the question for me is, can we drop below that 50-day EMA here on the daily chart, which is shown as the green line? If we do, I'm leaning towards further declines, and let's see how that's gonna play out. Looking at this one, so coming back to NASDAQ, and I think that there could be a follow through. And so far, it kind of played out nicely. One of my targets got reached, the 23,260 zone here. I managed to reach it nicely. So if we do clear that, my next target is this upside line, taken from the lowest point, the low of the 23rd of May, and then we'll take it from there. Jumping into the dollar index. So, US dollar traders are really watching carefully the economic calendar. Now, today, I'll jump into the CPIs in a bit, but today we have the FOMC meeting minutes from the last meeting we had. And look, are we going to get something really interesting or something that we don't know? No, it's just going to be, these are minutes from the meeting. Now, of course, there could be some market movement a little bit here and there, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of old news. I think that the main focus still is on Jackson Hole Symposium. And this is something that everybody's watching, and I think that it kicks off on a Thursday, but still the moment will be here. The Fed Chair Powell's speech, and everybody's kind of hoping to hear something crazy in there. But anyway, we'll see. I'm somehow leaning towards the idea, whenever there's so much hype, so much anticipation of some sort of like a speech or a meeting or whatever, it kind of ends up being boring, and just the market doesn't get what they wanted. But to kind of create the hype going prior to that, that's what everybody can do. Everybody loves doing that. So, congratulations. We get some volatility in the market. So maybe that's why. That, we're creating this this effect, this craziness, that trying to say that there's going to be something awesome, and then eventually we're going to not get something awesome, and just going to be like your regular piece of information. Look, what can he say? That he's going to go for a rate cut? We already know that from the from this right here. We have an 85. Actually, let me just refresh this, because maybe that's just old data. 83% probability that we're going to get a rate cut in September. So if he's just going to say yes, we're going to do it, right? Okay, that's fine. I mean, the dollar could drop, but the thing is that we already kind of know this, and I think the bigger thing here could be if he says suddenly that, we're not really confident that inflation is under control, and we believe that I think it's a little bit too early to talk about these rate cuts, right? So now that's where the interesting moment could come in. The fact that, like I said, if he's going to say that we're going to cut rates, okay, we know that. The Fed Watch tool is giving us that. But the fact that if he's going to say suddenly, no, we're not, that's where the interesting bit could come in. So look, long story short, for now, of course, keep an eye on this. I don't think that the US dollar could make any major moves prior to that speech. Let's just double check very quickly. What do we have in terms of economic data from the US? Initial and continuous jobless claims, Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, coming out tomorrow. That's expected to be on the lower side. Yep, some flashes and some estimates of the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMIs are coming out, so something to keep in mind. So yeah, in a way, there are some important pieces of data coming out, but yeah, I think that everybody's just going to be like, psyched on the situation with the Fed chair. So long story short, look, what I want to do here is on the US dollar is I want to remove all the drawings and have a fresh look. Let me bring the logo back. So I want to have a fresh look, and basically here, after we had this nice beautiful decline, after we started declining at the beginning of January, look at this. This is a year, ladies and gentlemen. We started off here. That's the high of this year, just bang on that 110. And this is the low, the 95.97. So if we measure from the top of the year, price range, there we go, from the top of the year to the low of the year, we can see that there was around minus 12%. But the beginning of the year was, where's that beginning? Friday, Tuesday, December, there we go, January. So if we look at this way, we can see that there was like minus 11 and almost like minus 11.3% decline from the beginning of the year for the US dollar. I really doubt that this is going to stabilize much. I mean, I don't really see a strong moment here for the US dollar. I'm on the contrary, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards the break of this $96 mark. Look, again, anything can happen, so that's why I'm not really, this is my personal kind of expectation, but still anything can happen. If, let's say, we don't get those rate cuts, then yes, the US dollar could push back up a little bit. However, that's not what the current US administration wants. And that's where we believe that there could be some more downside, because they need a weaker dollar. They need a weaker dollar because of, they want to make their exports a little bit more attractive on the global arena, and make imports a little bit more expensive for the U.S. importers. Well, the whole idea is to go local, right? But anyway, local. So anyway, for now, I would say this way, that if we're trying to, find good levels here, good breakout levels, I think you can keep an eye on these areas. The 97.42 is the one that I'm watching here. That's the low of last week. A drop below that could open the door to some lower areas right there. Let me just put this one, and by the way, let me just drag this one away from here. So yeah, this is what I'm looking at right now. Let's see how all this is going to play out. For the upside, I would rather wait for a push at least back above the 100-day EMA, and if we can get that clearance, I will go to the upside. The German index DAX. Okay, look, yesterday we did get that drop, right, in the stock market, and DAX was also the one that kind of felt the heat. However, looking at this from the technical perspective, yes, we tested this downside line taken from the high of the 10th of July. We drifted back down, and we continued to drift lower on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, still here. This is the cash index, by the way. So, but okay, the index is already open as well. So, but what's interesting here is that the bodies of these candles remain within the body of this first candle. So that means to me that there could be a possible reversal, unless we start clearing this territory right there, this 24,200 zone. If we clear that, I will go to the downside. But hey, look, I'm not rushing into things yet. For now, I'm just observing the price action, and if we do drop below that 24,200, then yes, I'm going to lean towards the downside, towards that this 50-day EMA. So this for me is going to be the more important short-term hurdle on my chart here. because if we are going to stay above it, I'm kind of considering a possible reversal back up. But for that, still, don't get me wrong, I want to be a little bit more on the careful side. For that, I would need to see a break of this downside line. So either way, while we remain in this area, I'm just observing the price action. Looking at the FTSE 100. Now, look, the FTSE 100. This formation looks a little bit more bearish. A drop, a correction back up, struggling to push higher here. So yes, this looks more like a bearish 3 method. Let me just double check because I have like a chart here. Yeah, something like that. Whenever you have like you know, like a big candle to, let's say in this case, to the downside, then the consecutive 3 candles to the upside. So yes, and then there's like the 5th candle goes back to the downside. So something like that. Again, let's see how this is going to play out, of course. For now, I am being very careful here, very cautious. And if you're looking for some higher levels on this one, very simple. Wait for clearance of the current all-time high. If you're looking for some downside, it could be simple. Wait for a drop somewhere below this 9,150 zone, just to be a little bit more on the safe side. Let's jump into Forex very quickly because I wanted to pick up on some economic data that came out this morning. So, okay, AUDUSD drifting lower. The US dollar still is on the stronger side a little bit, but I don't know for how long. For how we don't know for how long, of course, but we're going from what we have right now. So right now, what we have is a possible drop here. If we get this drop below the 0.6418, then yes, I'm going to go towards the downside, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. For the upside, I think I'm going to take a bit of a conservative approach here, and I'm going to wait for a push above this downside line taken from the high of the 24th of July. If we can clear this downside line, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards higher areas. AUDNZD, beautiful push to the upside. You know why? We had the RBNZ interest rate decision that came out this morning, and we had the bank kind of dropping their rate by 25 basis points. So dropping it to 3%. Let's have a look at the chart here. Let's investigate this. No. There we go. That's what I'm looking at. So basically, look at this. I mean, we have, well, if you apply technical analysis on this, we have retraced almost 50%, right, from this area right here somewhere. Let me just put this on the chart. There we go. Almost 50%. So okay, look, I mean, we cannot really do that, to be honest, but anyway, it was just a little bit of fun. So we did drop, and I think the bank, well, I don't think, I mean, I read the bank still considers to maybe drift further with the cuts. And let me just, because I stalled there a little bit, because I was thinking about if I do have a chart here, and the inflation rate, there we go, that's what I was looking for. So inflation started picking up, look, and it's currently at 2.7, that's the headline. It's still within the range target of the bank, or the RBNZ, which is between 1 and 3%. So we're still there, we're still okay, but I think the bank is projecting like higher areas. So maybe the bank is trying to, you know, do the cuts, stimulate the economy as much as possible. Yes, inflation could start getting out of hand, but you know, that's kind of a later thing, you know, a thing for a later. For now, yes, we're seeing inflation kind of picking up again, but look, I think at the moment the banks are trying to stimulate the economy, but what I said before recently, and I think that the banks, everybody should be worried now more about the potential idea of a stagflation. Now, this This is not new. This is something that already people are talking about. So if you don't know what stagflation is when you have high inflation, high unemployment, but then low growth. So so inflation right now is picking up. We're seeing this tendency. So unemployment is slowly starting to pick up as well because of uncertainty, but the economic growth is dropping. So normally, what you should have is, let's say, if economic growth is dropping, demand is falling, and basically, prices should be adjusting to the downside as well. However, we're not seeing this. On the contrary, we're seeing prices kind of pushing higher. It seems like it's a rare phenomenon in the economy, but it does happen. So I think last time it was like 70s or something like that. One of the big ones, right? So I'm not look. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is what we're gonna exactly get, but certainly there is room to try to understand. Is this gonna be something that we're gonna go through in the recent years? So let's see how that's gonna play out. Anyway, long story short, looking at AUD and ZD, boom to the upside, boom. There we go. Look at this. This is traveling, just traveling higher. Look, I have this line here, and I kind of thought maybe this is like a nice rising channel idea, but don't get me wrong. I mean, this might stall here somewhere, and it might not even test this upside. It's just like a reference line, so because this one is like it's a parallel line, so that's kind of it. So I don't want to overdo this. For now, I'm watching this carefully, and let's see how far can this pair travel. AUDJPY, now this one drifted lower, of course, understandable, because again the stock market started drifting lower, so our risk on, risk off environment had started to drift lower. So sorry, our risk on, risk off environment now is like shifting more towards risk off, because we're, everybody's kind of fearful, and that's why we're getting this AUDJPY drift to the downside, because everybody's jumping into something a little bit more safer, like the Japanese yen. So let's see how far this can travel. NZD/USD, so there we go. That's the drop. That's the major decline. I want to see what's going to happen today here with this little hurdle. Are we going to stay below the 0.85846? Or actually, are we going to rebound somewhere and, or actually we're going to stay below it, or actually we're going to push back above it? I mean, for now, I don't want to rush into things. Again, it's quite interesting here. We do have a downside line taken from the highest point of July. For now, looking at this picture, I would say I'm leaning still towards the downside, don't get me wrong, but only if we continue to trade below the 0.5846 area. And ZDJPY, of course, beautiful drop here. So far, so good. I mean, this is working out like a charm here. And basically, I would say, yes, so 86.66 zone has been cleared. The forthcoming lower low has been confirmed. We tested the 85.83 zone. Now the question is, are we going to go further south? USDJPY. USDJPY, now this one's holding on because somehow the US dollar is still, I think that the US dollar traders, like I said, they're waiting for the symposium. And what will Powell say? So I think that this could remain like this all the way up until Friday. USDCAD. Now yesterday, USDCAD inflation, Canadian inflation came out yesterday. That was a little bit of a surprise to the downside. And look at this headline: 1.7 against 1.9 previous. Core year on year, 2.6 against 2.7 previous. So basically, indicating weakness in the Canadian dollar, and there we go. I think that this kind of puts this idea into everybody's heads that the Bank of Canada could continue cutting, rates, and let me just try to find Canada interest rate. IN. There we go. That's the one that I was looking at. So recently it stopped, but then the continuation here, like look, they dropped from 5% to 2.75. They still have room to the downside, so maybe that's what the market is worried that. In order to kind of boost productivity, the BOC could jump in with some cuts. And look, I talked about this pair in my recent videos. I actually did a video here yesterday. You can check it out here. It's not GBPUSD. It's both USDCAD and GBPUSD. So you can check it out. Yeah, we can go from there. But basically, what I'm looking at here for the upside, I need a good clearance of this 200-day EMA and kind of staying above it, and then I'll go further north. USDCAD just flat again. It's just a copy of DXY and just kind of waiting for the next catalyst, which could be the Powell speech. EURUSD, a little bit of a drift lower, but that's fine still. We're still above all the EMAs on the daily chart. So, hey, still cautiously bullish somewhat, but I'm aiming for this downside line. EUROJPY, now this one's interesting. So JPY is getting stronger against risky currencies like AUD and NZD, but Euro is still on the stronger side, and it's holding this pair from dropping any lower. So let me just grab a few lines here. So this is the highest point of this month, and July. Yep, that's July. That's July. That's the highest point of this year, the current highest point of this year, and that's the lowest point of July here. So basically, August we're stuck in between these. Is this the lowest point? No, I mean no. This is not. This is just the low of the 31st of July. The lowest point of July is right here. Yes, so this is the lowest point of July. So in August, as you can see yourselves, that we are kind of, we don't have much volatility and just kind of stuck in this area. So maybe a clearance through one of the sides here could be better. Now GBPUSD. Okay, inflation in UK. Let me just jump into this one right here. So inflation in UK year-on-year headline 3.8 against 3.6. This is what I was talking about in my video yesterday. So yes, basically at the moment we're seeing higher numbers. Core 3.8 against 3.7. So everything is to the upside because, well, let's face it, UK is expensive, and the previous numbers. Actually, this time, because the previous numbers were an indication that fares were more expensive, fly fare, everything was with transportation, everything was expensive. So I'm not talking about like train tickets and everything like that's like wow, maintenance of vehicles, that's like really on the higher side. So, and this is the tendency that we're seeing so far. Let me just launch the chart. So I said yesterday that in a way I'm kind of leaning a little bit more, towards the 4%, and I think that this is where the bank will start shifting or start thinking something, or at least I think so, that if we reach the 4 level, I think this is where maybe they will start considering possible rate hikes. We don't know. But yeah, look, I mean, the BOE's target is 2%. We're almost double that. Yeah, so let me just double check. So driven by surge in airfares, yes, prices climbed, blah, 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 came from transport. Basically transportation, yes, again, the same problem. Fuel, seafares, roadside recovery services, yep, that's something that... And food, right? So food as well was on the higher side. Restaurants and hotels. Yep, that's what increased as well. So okay, yeah, transportation and hospitality together with food. That's where we saw the increase. GBPUSD pushing back up. GBP is enjoying the stronger inflation. And what I recently talked about in my videos here, that looking at this technical picture here on GBPUSD, maybe it is an inverted head and shoulders pattern with the neckline being somewhere around here, around this 1.3585 zone. If that's the case, then we're just waiting for a clearance of the neckline, period. This is going to be too risky. If we want to consider a rebound, that's fine, but I don't want to rush into things yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, for now, I'm just keeping an eye on this 1.3585 zone, and then we'll take it from there. CAD JPY, just nothing major here, to be honest. Let's jump into the commodity world, ladies and gentlemen. Gold holding nicely above this upside line. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. This upside support line taken from the low, the 15th of May. This is something that I am watching very, very carefully. Look, is this an ascending triangle pattern? Could be if we do not ignore this territory right here. This upside line, yes, so far so good. We're holding above it. Let's see if we can push back above the 50-day EMA. However, I would prefer to wait for a push above the 3,375 territory, somewhere around here, just to be a little bit more on the safe side. Silver drifting lower, yes, drifting lower, waiting for the Fed speech. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen here, but we're at a very interesting spot. So I need to drop below the 50-day EMA. If we can get that drop, and the next target is the 100-day EMA, and then the 200-day EMA, and then we'll take it from there. Look, this is a good area, a good target, the 36.14. And if we can drop below the 50-day EMA, the next target is the 36.14, and then we'll just take it from there. Palladium is resting nicely. It managed to reach this key area of support, which is this upside support line taken from the lowest point of April. We rebounded from here, and now the question is, I mean, in general, the idea worked out beautifully. I was talking about this 1,179 zone. If we can clear that, then we drop below the 50, then I'm going to aim for the 100 and this upside line. I mean, picture perfect. Now, what's next? Well, next, it could be this. And let's see if that's going to be the case. However, I will abandon this idea if we do fall below this upside line, and we start aiming for then we'll start aiming for the 200-day EMA. Platinum is drifting lower, but it's still holding on to some key areas of support, like for example here. So if we can clear this territory right here, I'm going to lean towards the downside because the forthcoming lower low will be confirmed. Copper drifting, it still has a bit of room to test one of these trend lines. Both are tentative, don't get me wrong. Maybe, maybe actually this one is a better one. The one's taken from the lowest point of July of 2022. The flatter one, I think that's a good one here. But hey, once again, we need a clearance. We need a clearance through this 4.33 territory, and then we'll take it from there. Oil, my beloved oil, there we go. Look at this beautiful thing. We still remain below the $64 mark. I talked about this a lot, so hey, I'm still targeting that $60 mark. Brent oil, similar story, still kind of looking bearish. Natural gas, we're falling below the 2.76 territory. I talked about this. Forthcoming lower low is getting confirmed. So hey, yep. For now, I'm just leaning a little bit more towards the downside on this one. Coffee, coffee continues to rally. My beloved coffee is continuing to rally. So far, so good. Yes, I'm targeting this downside line, to be honest, taken from the high of the 13th of February. Cocoa stuck here, to be honest, but I'm waiting. I want to see what's going to happen with this area, the 7,636 and 7,765. It's a good area of support. If we can get a nice clearance of that, I'll go lower, but if we cannot get a clearance, we rebound, then I'll go to the upside. Wheat is drifting nicely to the downside here. Wonderful. Yes, drop below the 506 zone here. Is an interesting one. So we stalled. We're still trading below it. So I think the most important is we're falling below the psychological 500 level. Now that's very interesting. Look at this. Some historic levels getting hit right now. So last time we were like back in August of like 2020. So far I think we could drift even further south, to be honest, because we've cleared that 500 zone. So let's see if we can do that. Sugar, my beloved sugar, beautiful rebound from this upside line area, and the question is now, can we see a push back up? However, I would prefer to get a clearance of the 17 mark here, and if we can get that, wonderful, I'll go to the upside. Cotton, I need a clearance of the upper side of the falling channel. If we can get that nice clearance, wonderful. More buyers could join in. Ladies and gentlemen, for the ZERD now, the crypto world. The cryptos are finally getting a nice little correction lower. That's fine. So if we can get that, further decline, I would really prefer this one to actually test the 112 zone. I talked about this. I'm aiming for that, but slightly below that, we have the 100-day EMA near the 110,500 zone. So this is a good area as well for a test. Then I'm going to see what's going to happen next. Are we going to clear that? Personally, I would love to see a decent correction here back down, to be honest. I would love to see that because then maybe, it could present itself with some nice opportunities to the upside later on. But it would be interesting to see Bitcoin actually traveling back to 100,000 zone. But hey, let's control our appetite. Bitcoin Cash, beautiful decline. I'm loving this. This is very technical. We're in this rising channel pattern still, so in a way the trend is to the upside, but we're getting closer to the lower side of this rising channel. So let's see if we can clear this lower side together with that 50-day EMA. If we can do that, I'll go to the downside. Ethereum, beautiful test of the 50% here retracement, which is drawn from the lowest point of August to the current highest point of August, and beautiful 50% retracement. The question for me is, can we clear that 50%? Because look, this is a good area, this 4,000 kind of 70 zone, 80 zone, something like that. It has been a good area of resistance before. Now it's acting as a good area of support. However, if we clear that to the downside, this is going to be, this could be a little bit spicy here for the cryptos. For the Ethereum, we could see a nice drift lower. Look, we have ourselves this upside line right here, which which could be a good one to watch. And if we can clear this this upside line, then yes, I'm leaning towards the downside. Ripple is also drifting nicely to the downside here. We remain below the 50-day EMA, and my next target here is this 100-day EMA. So long story short, let's see what's going to happen here, because again, for now I'm looking at this from the bearish perspective, and I'm targeting this little area right here, this 2.72 zone on Ripple. For me to consider the upside on Ripple, I would like to see a push above this downside line. Litecoin. Litecoin is yes, it's drifting lower, and again, I'm targeting this 50-day EMA, 110 zone-ish, somewhere around here, and then we'll take it from there. Dogecoin is also drifting to the downside. However, this one is resting right now on my EMAs. Let's see if we can get those clearances here in order to aim for that 0.1883 area, which has been a good area of support previously. Polkadot is drifting to the downside. However, found good support near this 3.72 zone. Okay, that's good. So now there's going to be an interesting moment here. Can we actually push back to the upside? I'm not going to rush into things because again, we are at interesting levels here, at interesting areas. So this upside line here is yes, it's an interesting good area right here right now. So hey, I'm gonna wait for a clearance. I'm gonna wait for a clearance of this little triangle pattern before considering the next short-term directional move. At this point, I think it's a little bit tricky to talk about any any further direction, but given that we're coiling up, or at least starting to coil up. Tron. So look, I talked about this in the beginning of this week, and I said, look, keep your eyes on this upside line. I mean, it's a little bit of a tentative upside line, don't get me wrong, but what's interesting here is that 0.3440 area continues to provide good support. So this is what I'm watching. If we clear this 0.3440, I'm leaning towards the downside. I'm leaning towards my 50-day EMA. But for now, there's kind of still hope for the bulls, right? I mean, as long as we stay above the upside line, we continue to trade above it, then there's a good chance for this one to actually push back up. So, but again, I'm trying to be a little bit more on the careful side. I'll probably keep an eye on this little territory right here, the 0.3538 in the short run. If we pop above it, we may actually start, you know, we may aim for the upside. We could aim for that 0.3682 zone, and then we'll just take it from there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. That is a wrap for this Wednesday session. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I really appreciate that. Appreciate your time, your views, your likes, your comments. Look, too bad that nobody kind of, you know, asked any questions during the live session, because that's kind of why we're doing these live sessions, in order for you to kind of interact. If you still have any questions, throw them out there. But yeah, if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, as always, stay safe. Have your stop losses in place. Risk only what you can afford to lose. Don't overtrade, and everything will be fine. Look, I'll see you on Friday. Okay? Join me then, the same time, same place. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.